Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. So you know what that is time for. It is the football show with no name, and we have the usual suspects here with us. So we got Big Ferg, Ferg or Big Jeff over here to my left, Lauren, Who Dat Nation to the bottom right, and to complete the tic-tac-toe ring, we got Ian the Champ down here at the bottom, fresh off of his victory at Lincoln Financial Field, which we are not going to start with, but we will talk
No
about
penalties.
at some point. We will talk about at some point. We will figure that out, and I'm sure Ferg. He said he needs another show when we were pre-gaming it. He said he needs another show to talk about officiating. So, what we're going to start off with today, and Ian's gonna jump on this one. So Jim Irsay has came out and said that the NFL has admitted that there was 2 wrong calls in the Colts game. So, Ian, tell us what's going on.
So officiating is kind of big in the news this week. A lot of talk on the socials about the Eagles and the Dolphins game. The Eagles had 0 penalties called. There were 3 or 4 offsetting penalties. I know Jeff has some feelings about that. That's for another day, another time, perhaps. Well, same day, another time. But the big one here, and really keeping it football related and not so much fantasy related, is the commish has joined us. What's up, Merrill?
Commish.
What's going on, bro?
We're talking about a little bit about what happened with Jim Irsay, the comments he made regarding the officiating in the Browns versus the Colts game last week. If you don't know, Browns-Colts game was a very close game, high-scoring game. Who saw Gardner Minshew putting up 30 points, 2 rushing touchdowns? At the end of the game, Lauren saw that one coming. At the end of the game,
he's like a DFS diamond in the rough. Like Minshew, all he can do is sling it.
And now that we know the commish is here, we'll get into a little bit of that later, a little betting and parlaying and success and all that stuff. We'll talk about that a little later. So Ian, keep up with the Irsay thing.
So at the end of this game, there were 2 really questionable calls against the Colts. Third and fourth down, or I guess they replayed first downs. Then some pass interference, some illegal touching calls down at the goal line and in the waning seconds. And both of the calls were questionable. One of the calls, I think it was widely interpreted, was really uncatchable, but pass interference was called. Yes. It so happens that at the end of each week after the Monday night games, I guess maybe it's not widespread knowledge, but the league has a conference call with all 32 of the team owners, and one of the things that they review is the officiating. And calls that may have been missed calls that may have been incorrect. And the league will, certainly take ownership privately of any calls that may have been missed. And in this case, might have really affected the outcome of a football game. Well, that's supposed to be in confidentiality. And Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, who abides by nobody's rules, except for his own, came out publicly and said, this is what the league said. The league said the officials missed these calls. They cost us this game, and the league has admitted it. And the league, the NFL spokespeople, are irate over it, and they're looking to sanction Irsay, fines, whatever. Yeah, I mean, King Roger the First is going to do whatever it is. But I think it's a really, really good jumping off point, because I don't know so much about the NFL, about the NHL or the NBA, but I know that in Major League Baseball, umpires are actually reviewed and graded. How many missed strikes? This umpire had a 96% accuracy rate on his balls and strikes, and it's public knowledge, and the officials have to take ownership of that. And in the NFL, it's not. We made a mistake, and we're not going to admit it publicly. Our officials are untouchable. Which
slap on the hand.
I mean, it's a slap. A slap on the wrist internally. The worst that they're going to get is maybe they're not going to be selected to do a playoff game, or they certainly won't be selected to be in the Super Bowl. A Super Bowl line judge or official if they've had missed calls. So that's private. But now it's public, and I really think it's an interesting conversation, because we spend a lot of time on fantasy, but this is real life football.
So, I'm sitting here and my like blood pressure is rising, and I just want to say hi to my best friend Blake, because what I'm about to say, she was part of, we did this together, and also my niece Sawyer, who will be a big Saints fan one day. No, that call in the NFC Championship game, I will never let that go. And like when that kind of thing happens, and it's legitimately the reason you're losing a game, like they can, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I thought at one point we talked about, or I'd read somewhere that the referees are supposed to be like independently wealthy or something like that, so that they can't be brought. Maybe I read it somewhere.
Don't most of them have jobs?
Well,
yeah,
like,
have jobs because they need
like their part-time job. Yeah.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like have a certain amount of money or whatnot, because they're not supposed to be influenced or whatever. But like, and I mean, that was like what? I don't even remember what year it was. I don't even want to think about it. But that was awful. I don't care. Like,
Ian is Googling.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the Rams or the Saints? Are we talking about?
I think she's talking about Rams Saints game. You know,
yeah.
That ended
clearly pass interference. Clearly.
Well, I mean, he knew it was. He got up and he was looking. The defensive player told Coleman he was looking for a flag, and like that kept the Saints from going to the Super Bowl. And I guarantee you, everyone, mark my words, that would have been a better Super Bowl if it was Drew Brees versus Tom Brady than this crap we saw that year. It was like what, 7-3. It was a crap Super Bowl.
I think it was 16. Let me jump in and give a couple of points. I think that first of all, I don't often listen to Aaron Rodgers and Pat McAfee.
Oh, Jesus.
Did listen yesterday, but I listened yesterday. Pat McAfee did give him his flowers yesterday, but Aaron Rodgers said something yesterday, and normally he says some really stupid shit. Yes, but yesterday he said the only way to fix officiating in this room is if you take the referees that work for the networks, put them back with the NFL, leave them in a room with 80 to 90 monitors, and they are the final say-so of all calls. Like, even if a referee blows a call, they should be able to stop the game and say, hey, this dude was a yard short of the first down. Hey, that was a face mask. Hey, that was this. And if they were like the ultimate Supreme Court of referees, I think that a lot of fans would not be as mad. But it also leads to this stupid idea that there is a script. Because when you're watching your team and you watch somebody, not to harp on the game, but you watch a team get 10 penalties, or you watch a quarterback get blown on and they get a penalty flag, and then you watch your quarterback get laid out and there's no flag, that tells the fans something else is at play other than the rules.
Well, but also, we only have one game. Like in baseball, a World Series or whatever, you miss a call in one. I mean, they've got 7 games. In football, that's it. So if you blow a call at the last 2 minutes of a game and send someone home, like that's it. There is no redo.
Man, Lauren,
there's too much money involved to leave it up to just one person.
Lauren, the baseball purist in me wants to say, "Oh my gosh, every pitch in playoff baseball matters." It's just like it makes me, but we're talking about. It makes me sick to my stomach to even think about it. So,
we know MLB. We know MLB does not have a script because nobody wants to watch that World Series.
That
is a nightmare. That is a nightmare. It's the Diamondbacks and the Rangers.
No, nobody
wants. That's a nightmare for Major League Baseball.
Clearly, I turned it off after the
television.
So there's no script there.
No, Jeff. So the only problem that I see, and I don't necessarily have a huge problem with, having, I think it's on Fox. It's Gene Steratore, and NBC has one. Everybody has one, like their rules expert who is a former NFL official, and their input, their analysis, I appreciate as a casual fan watching. I think
when their explanations and stuff,
absolutely. This is the mindset. This is the thought pattern that a referee should be going through to come up with this call, and it doesn't involve sliding an index card between the chain and a football. That's a bit. And Gene Steratore did that, and he's one of the rules experts. Anyway, Gene Steratore also gave the Eagles a win in the Super Bowl, so peace for that.
Hey.
The problem, Jeff, I see with that line of thinking is you're almost coming up with the notion of like a referee czar. I think you're giving one person too much power. If they like you see a lot of trades in fantasy football. And in every league that I have, nothing is vetoed unless it is obvious collusion or is threatening the integrity of a league. If there is a trade that is leaning more towards one side or it makes one good team even better, that's not a notion for vetoing. But I do see a lot of leagues where trades that are fair, maybe a little bit lopsided, but there's nothing wrong with them. It's not threatening the league, are vetoed because there's that one person, the commissioner, who has that veto power. Having one of referee czar, you have 8 officials, 8 or 9 officials.
I think let me not put words in Aaron's mouth. I think what Aaron said was Blandino, Sterator, whoever the guy is on NBC. I see his face in my head, but it fails my name. Yeah, I can't remember his name of the guy. If those 3 to 4 guys were all work for the league and they were together, and if you're calling a game and somebody blows a holding call or an important pass interference in the last 2 minutes, like the Colts game, and they say, hey, that was pass interference. Hey, that wasn't. We'll give it a moment. The guy on the field doesn't throw the flag. That panel of 4 between those 3 should be able to say, hey, that was holding. Call the stadium.
As long as it doesn't slow the game down. If you start doing that,
penalties are reviewable. Penalties are reviewable.
With those refs.
Penalties should be reviewable.
Nuts.
Penalties need to be reviewable, at least in the last 2 minutes. In the last 2 minutes of a game.
It's humans making decisions. I mean, as long as you have humans making decisions, you're going to have like these biases and mistakes. So it's not going to change until people stop watching football.
But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that you saw it in real time, and that looked like this dude got targeted, or he looked like he got hit in the head. There's no reason you should get a 15-yard penalty for hitting somebody in the head when they showed a replay on the Jumbotron, and it was clearly shoulder to shoulder.
But you're assuming that they care. You're making an assumption that they care that the call. Right.
It doesn't about being care. It's not about caring. But if somebody's in charge with the amount of money, forget the.
They're gonna make the money regardless.
Forget the fans. The amount of illegal and illegal gambling money that trades places on these calls here is way too much to leave up to some random dude. And I hate to pick on this dude, but that guy from Philly, who the shit's coming out about, he got suspended for unethical refereeing. He's a Philadelphia fan. He lives 30 miles from the stadium. That's way too much opening to say, hey, there's some shit in the game. For the casual fan, you're just leaving it too open when you can close these loopholes really easily.
Okay, like, money's still going to flow. There's people going to still gamble whether the calls are right.
No, it's not about the gamble. But if you're gambling, I want to know that's correct. Just like when they gave your money back to Bijan on Sunday because he didn't play. Because Atlanta did something wrong.
That's another thing.
But I'm still going to gamble. I don't care if they didn't give me my money. But I'm still going to spend my money. So why does it matter if they?
So if they didn't have a special like on Underdog or whatever that said Bijan's getting 1 yard. So if Bijan was supposed to get 70 yards, and you say, hey, he's playing the 3rd worst run defense in the league.
Yep.
And you don't know that Bijan's hurt 5 minutes before the game and you place this bet only for them to come back and give you your money back.
But I'm addicted, so I'm going to play next week, and I don't care if he
hold on. I know
you're we're talking about 2 different things. You're talking about I'm going to bet regardless.
There's no leverage. What you're talking about is zero leverage.
The nature of the bet should be viable. Like, I'm not going to sit here right now and say, I wouldn't take a Deshaun Watson bet that he's going to throw for 300 yards Sunday when all week you've told me this man's rotator cuff is bad. They're going to let him fly to Seattle, but their intent is to say he's not going to be active. Whether you play fantasy football or you're gambling, you have already made another plan for Sunday. Now, if you tell me all week, oh, Deshaun's practicing, we're looking great, and then Sunday morning at 12:55, well, his rotator cuff looked a little shaky in warm-ups, so we're going to go with P.J. Walker at 12:57 when P.J.'s been at practice all week, taking the goddamn snaps. That's bullshit. The same with the call.
So I'm gonna be mad for a week, and then the next week comes up, and it's time to gamble.
Hold on, there's one other thing that we're missing about the info.
It doesn't matter.
There's way too much on the line other than just gambling to have one person make a blame. If it's a subject call, I don't know if he was holding. I don't know if his toe was out of bounds. But when you see a guy not get hit, or you see a guy's whole head jerk around from a face mask, and the referee is within 3 yards of the play, and nobody throws a flag, there's something wrong.
They
That's
make
not
more money
baseball
from the gambling. So you don't realize how important the gambling is to the league's survival.
And
so
it is important.
That's why it doesn't matter. They don't want to fix
right.
your little rule and make the game right because they're going to continue to make the money. Like, you're as a purist, and you're talking about in a Pollyanna world where people care about those things. It's about money and finance and leverage. And if you don't have it, then nothing's going to change. I mean,
that's true.
This is why I said earlier about that Jim Irsay thing being the tip of the iceberg. Because it's only going to take, like you said, money. It only takes one billionaire to start raising hell. And then by this time next year, there'll be some kind of review. Right? Like 2 years ago, we weren't reviewing plays in the last 2 minutes. 2 years ago, we weren't challenging. 5 years ago, challenges weren't coming from upstairs. It's going to change if somebody with money says it has to change. The right owner has to get screwed in the right game.
Okay,
for everything to change.
I know an owner that
now that's going to happen. You are correct. It's got to be about the money. It ain't gonna be the Saints owner. Nobody cares about the Saints. It's gonna have to be
because it's a female.
No, it's not.
No, she got no money.
It's the Saints. You don't have enough money. It's got to be Terry. It's got to be Clark Hunt. It's got to be Kraft. It's got to be the cow. It's got to be Kraft. Somebody in a big game. It's got it right now.
Somebody with money.
The Tepper
right
from the
now,
Panthers.
Philly. Yep. Tepper has enough money, even though they suck. That if they ever get decent and say they lose in a 7-9 game to get in the playoffs like last year, something will happen.
Nobody has Jerry
happens
Jones
to the Cowboys.
Tepper rich, man.
Tepper
he got Jerry Jones money.
Yeah, he's rich.
Tepper rich.
Yeah. All right. Well, look. The bottom line. So the bottom line to wrap this part up, because this is a great topic to lead off with. But like the bottom line is, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's going to be some more shit that comes out, as Ferg said. People with money make shit happen, or the right people with money make shit happen. And all the NFL cares about is money, as we all know. So what I would like to talk about is, Lauren, and I would like for you to talk about this. What did your Ravens pull off this week with, apparently, according to the power rankings, the best team against the best team in football? Which I don't know how you say that about the Lions with a straight face. But so, Lauren, your Ravens really went out there and did the damn thing.
Yeah, I'm right outside of Baltimore, and I first and foremost, Detroit, Jeff. We are sorry that your birthday.
We love you, baby.
Went out that way. It was one of the first things that we.
Oh, that was on his birthday.
Yeah, it was on his 50th birthday.
Well, at least they scored.
He was there.
He was there.
At least they scored, and they didn't get shut up. That's a
yeah, they didn't. We had finished the walk for Alzheimer's around 12:30, and we went to lunch, and I was sitting there with my dad, Big Thunder, and it was like by 1:30, I'm like, because I have like every scoring play goes to my phone on every, so my phone blows up all day, so it gives Samantha anxiety. So I'm like watching it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it was like over by the first half, it was probably over. It was just minutes. When Gus Edwards goes 80 yards, like that's a problem. But I was listening to a podcast, and they were saying they're like, the way the Ravens played Sunday, if they play like this every game, nobody will beat them.
Well, that's
no defense can compete.
Well, their defense is playing great. If Lamar turns Lamar's been playing good.
Like hell of a job.
Defense plays well. No team will play like that every single week. Like
I agree, but it was also it was windy as hell too, and that stadium.
Baltimore played a great game. Listen, Baltimore played a solid full game from minute 1 to minute 60.
It was amazing, yeah. And I put their defense in because it was like nobody thought their defense would do shit, and I put their defense in DF, and like that was the defense to pick.
I remember you were talking about that.
And Suggs was out, and he was there, like in his. I was like, maybe they're excited because he's here visiting. I don't know, but like it was.
I mean, they put him in the ring of the Hall of Fame.
So.
Yeah,
he was being inducted. So
I mean, he definitely deserves that. So
let's talk a minute while
I picked him for MVP.
Yeah. Well, let me share an observation real quick before you go into the end. It's just been specifically about Baltimore. There's this really funny pattern of the whole season where before the season starts, everybody says the Chiefs are great. Chiefs lose
every year.
Then the Cowboys beat the shit out of the Giants. Oh, the Cowboys are great. Then they lose. And then Miami beats Denver 70-0.
Miami's untouchable.
And then Buffalo beats Miami. Then they lose. And then, oh my God, look at San Francisco. They're so great. Then they lose.
2 in a row.
Look at Baltimore. They beat Detroit. I mean, look at Detroit. They're so great. They're so great. Then they lose. So is
Baltimore plays Arizona this weekend.
Arizona's gonna win.
Arizona's gonna win.
Every team that is the talk of the town during
is Kyler coming back?
They take an L.
Not yet.
On Sunday.
Did you know that Kyler fully practiced today?
Full practice.
Did anybody else know that?
He's back,
that
he's
Kyler
back in
practiced
2
today?
weeks. So
yeah, 2 weeks.
So I would say this. So I would piggyback off of Merrill here. There is data to support that whoever like I said, no team is going to be that team every single week. Dallas's defense looked unbelievable when they played the Giants week 1. Now, part of that,
everyone when they play the Giants
listen,
now.
Merrill,
everybody when they play the Giants now.
Yeah, Merrill, I love you, man. The Giants helped to help the Cowboys look that good. Is the Cowboys defense good? Yeah, Tank Lawrence, Micah Parsons, when Trayvon was there, they're really good players. Dan Quinn,
then they have their
really
lead.
good, really good coordinator, but they're not all that. You remember 2 weeks ago? I think the Ravens didn't they play Pittsburgh the week before? And
yes.
And Lamar looked wretched. Now
that's in Pittsburgh. That's a different type of game.
Doesn't matter.
It does.
It doesn't matter. No, it does. It doesn't matter.
Pittsburgh
Lamar
makes you play ugly, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But if Lamar is this otherworldly superstar, and don't get me wrong, Lamar is a great league MVP candidate player. He is a perennial talent, no question. But if you're that perennial talent, you don't look that bad against Pittsburgh, and an opponent that you know. So that's my point. That's my point.
Baltimore is a completely separate.
I think what Ian is saying is there's going to be a Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. There's going to be a Baltimore-Arizona game. There's going to be you can actually tie all this back, and I blame Stephen A. Every week there's a Stephen A. list, and the teams that are at that top 3 either struggle or lose every single week because we are such a recency bias. I need it right now. You scored 70. You scored 6 touchdowns. San Francisco looked like shit.
San Francisco looked terrible.
They looked terrible Monday night.
All right, hey,
2 weeks ago, we had a Brock Purdy for MVP talk.
No. If you're going to be an otherworldly talent, Pittsburgh and Baltimore are. Listen, it's an ugly game every year. I get it, but Pittsburgh and Baltimore know each other like the back of their hand.
That's what I'm saying.
It's that if you know your opponent that well and you're an otherworldly talent, you should know how to beat them. Or even if you can't beat them, not look as he looked JV. He looked like
the game was close, which is usually what happens.
Fine, but close or not, then let it be 38-35, let it be 7-3. Doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is in that game, Lamar looked terrible. This week,
but isn't that the case with all the division games?
Yeah, but that's not my
other than the East, other than the NFC East. Don't all division games like that?
Listen, Eagles and Giants every year. Eagles and Giants every year. Giants are not a good team. Eagles are. When they play, the Eagles are going to be favored by 12.5. I guarantee that game will be. I'm making up a number. Minimum.
The Cowboys? Wait a minute.
No, Giants.
No.
Oh, yeah. 2 scores.
So Eagles will be favored by 12.5. I will guarantee that will be less than a 1-score game at the end. It is every single year.
That was my point.
Eagles and Commanders. The Eagles are
a good game.
Are leagues better. The Commanders scored 7 points against the fucking Giants last week. The Commanders are not in.
But they almost beat the Eagles.
But
all right, so
the Eagles to overtime.
Decent, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a division thing. You just watched the damn Mac Jones and them beat Josh Allen on Sunday when I would have thought that Mac Jones wouldn't win another game this year.
I feel
like we get blown out a lot. I feel like we lose a lot of games by a lot a point. I don't know.
We
lose.
You know what, Ferg?
That is $40 million.
Ferg, that's a perfect. That's a
girlfriend and put her in like a room or something and like waterboarded her because like something happened with that team. Something happened that was not normal.
So that's what I'm saying. That's a perfect segue. So let's talk about what the hell is going on with the Bills. Okay, so let's talk about recency bias on the opposite end of the spectrum. Okay, yes. So are the Bills terrible because recently they've been terrible,
no, I think it's
or
hard
are the
to
Bills terrible because they're terrible?
No, I think it's hard to go.
I think Josh Allen is.
They've lost 2 in a row, right? 3 out of 4.
Josh Allen is a fantasy. Josh Allen is a fantasy stud. He is not a winner.
But they're not winning the game.
He's just not a winner. Outside of Stephon Diggs, honestly, outside of Allen and Stephon Diggs, what else does that team have? Dalton Kincaid, he could be great. Dalton Kincaid could be great. I'm going to preface everything
5 years from now.
It could be or should be.
No, he's got to be great now. Man, we might talk about that later.
He's played one good game.
He has the opportunity now that Dawson Knox is hurt. We'll talk.
He's no
Later if you want.
He's no Sam.
He's not Sam
Laporta.
Listen, Gabe Davis should be better. Terrible. Gabe Davis should be more. He should be more.
Yeah, but what happened to the
James Cook should be more. The Bills are a.
So is it a coaching thing then? Is it a coaching thing then? Since they have the players,
I think it's a stagnant thing. I think that you've been doing the same thing. This has been a team that should be in the Super Bowl the last 5 years. What changes have they made?
Is it a Norwood thing? Is it a lingering Norwood situation?
Merle and I often have this conversation about things that when you don't do something different, and if you have to decide as a franchise, are we good with winning 10 to 11 games every year and showing up in the first round? Or do we tear this shit down and we try to actually win a Super Bowl? That always comes back to the money. Are we good with being profitable? We're going to make money, but are we good with being a national brand, winning, playing a couple prime time games, knowing we're not going to ever win a Super Bowl?
You're talking about the Chargers.
I'm talking about the Bills.
The Chargers wish that they were Bills.
We don't really talk about the Chargers.
The Bills stopped being good when Dayball went to the Giants. Dayball was underappreciated when he was in Buffalo. The team changed when he left. The Chargers are your example of your team that is going to perennially win 9 to 11 games, 12 games maybe in a 17-game season. In a 17-game season, maybe this year, no, they're 2-4, but perennially will be in or fighting for one of those wild cards and will be bounced in the first year.
I don't know if they are. I feel like the Chargers are basically the Dolphins of the 90s.
You're talking about basketball.
In the same division with Mahomes, do you already know your best bet is a wild card? I mean, that's your best bet is a wild card. For the next 10 years, we got to be good enough to just get a wild card.
You're talking about the process.
We're going to be on the road. We're going to play on the road anyway and lose. So are you good enough? As you construct, you have Josh Allen, who could be a future Hall of Famer. He could be whatever you want him to do. But are we good enough the way we are constructed to go into Arrowhead, go into wherever, and win a playoff game? And I don't think that they are. No. I think they're good enough to win the AFC East because the Jets without Rodgers aren't really good. The Patriots are Mac Jones. Tua is coming. I can admit that. I like last year. I said this to somebody Sunday. Last year, Dolphins get down 14-0, even with no calls, they lose that game by 48 points. This year, 31-17. You can at least you're in the conversation to blame the refs and not the fact that you lost 50-7, because that's what happens to the Dolphins in the last 2 years if they get down 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. I don't ever think the Chargers are, no matter what Herbert does, the fact that Keenan's getting old, they'll never be good enough to overtake the Chiefs as long as they have Andy Reid
All right, so
right.
Hold on, Lauren.
Andy Reid. The Chargers have Brandon Staley, and
Brandon Staley, he won't have a job next year. He will not have a job next year.
Hey, Lauren's been wanting to say something for a while. What's going on, Lauren?
I have a question for you guys, and this is going to come off as a stupid question at first, but because we're talking about it,
no such thing.
How big of now? I know coaches are super important and all, but how big of a role do they play? Like, for example, Brady, I'm pretty sure he ran he was his own coach. So because I bring this up because
except for defense,
people want Dennis Allen out of New Orleans right now.
And
so and I know that Derek Carr is not the best quarterback, but I also think that when you have 3 turnovers and can't do anything with it, is that Dennis Allen or is that Derek Carr? So what is the role that coaches play?
It's his
play to play. They're on what is that? And what are they doing that they're like, you know what, get the hell out of here. Like Jeff Saturday or what, get out of here right now. I'm firing you mid-season. So that's my question.
Can I answer this question first?
Yeah.
Let's take Tyreek out the equation. You saw Brian Flores. You saw my favorite Harry Potter, Mike McDaniel. Mm-hmm. Same players, same Jalen, same Tua, worse offensive line, same running backs other than Mostert, who all of a sudden is rejuvenated. They're the same basic squad from the guts including the defense. Now, no one was like, oh my God, the Dolphins are this offensive juggernaut 2 years ago when Flores was in charge, or whoever's in charge. Because as the head coach, whether you're the OC or not, you are in charge. You can easily say, hey, don't call that shit. You can get on the mic and say, don't call that shit.
So they do for every play they're involved in.
It's the same team. Adding in Tyreek, of course, he's a weapon. I'm not going to discount what Tyreek is. But if Tyreek was to miss a game, I mean, I don't think that they'll fall that far off in the scheme that they run because you still got Waddle, you still got Wilson, you still got a tight end, you still got 2 backs. It's the same.
Hands up. So Jeff is right. Jeff is right. But I also think a large part of this is scouting and is sometimes getting a little bit lucky. So the Panthers had the first pick in this past year's draft, and they could have had any player that they wanted, and they
fucked up.
They fucked it up. Bryce Young is not it. They could have had CJ Stroud. Now, does that mean that if CJ Stroud was in Carolina and Bryce was in Houston, that Bryce would be looking at the? We'll never know. We'll never know that. But
they have the same offensive line.
I'm just saying,
and a worse running game.
It's but there's also some luck to it. And living in Philadelphia, where I am now, and living in Cleveland, as I did for most of my life, I know that Philadelphia has gotten lucky twice when it comes to coaches. We have had 2 coaching hires in the last 25 years.
Andy Reid.
That were nobodies. Andy Reid was a quarterback coach.
Yeah,
was the quarterback's coach in Green Bay. He wasn't on anybody's radar. Eagles hired him. Nick Sirianni was the offensive coordinator for 1 year in Indianapolis, and before that was like quality control. Like before that, these guys came out of nowhere. So part of it is Howie Roseman and other people scouting, but you also got to kind of get lucky. You know, you get Brock Purdy. Sure. You get Brock Purdy with Mr. Irrelevant. Anybody could have had Brock Purdy. The Raiders,
literally
the
anybody.
Saints. So part of it is luck. Part of it is your coaches when those quote unquote lucky players or lucky assistants fall into your lap. Lauren, I think the answer to your question is the coachings have a lot to do about it. The talent has to be there.
What about the day-to-day, though?
For sure. That's all coaching.
That's
all
coaching.
That's
all coaching. That's
okay. So
if you're a good coach, you have enough balls to say, I know we just gave away 8,000 draft picks for Trey Lance.
You're talking about Jeff. So what Jeff is talking about in tearing it whole down, the 1-to-1 analogy, and in the end, it didn't work. But the 1-to-1 analogy is what the Philadelphia 76ers did with trust the process. Traded away everything, got picks and got picks and got picks, and tore it down for 10 years and wound up with Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid and wound up choosing Ben Simmons over Jimmy Butler, which was the worst mistake ever. But that was the process. You had to tear everything down. You had to be willing to suck for
How many
7
people
years.
pass on Michael Jordan?
But I'm asking, like, on the case day, like, take Derek Carr out of the equation.
Should have.
Like, Dennis Allen, like, who is making it so that offense isn't able to move forward? It can't.
Dennis Allen is a defensive coach.
It's Dennis Allen.
Is he not calling the right plays? Like, I'm talking like the.
He's not calling the offense.
He's not the play caller.
He's not the play caller, but he put the person in place who is the play caller.
And is
so
that
ultimately, it's your responsibility.
Not advance, like, on these teams that are struggling. Like, what? I guess what's the difference between Mike Shanahan and Dennis Allen? Why is his offense able to move the ball? Because there's talent on both. I mean, they're NFL players.
Shanahan?
Well, so Kyle Shanahan is an offensive genius, right? Where Dennis Allen is a defensive head coach.
So
if you wear the crown as the coach, it is your responsibility.
Like Bill Belichick is a defensive head coach.
Mike Tomlin is a defensive-minded coach.
You know what?
That's why the Steelers are always.
But he's a CEO.
So hold on. So
let's good CEO.
Let's talk about this. This is a perfect segue because I wanted to talk about something.
Butler. He talking about coaches. Decision maker power.
So, so Maryland, how about this though? So how about you talk about this then? Is this Mike Tomlin's best coaching job? Because they're 4-2 and they're garbage on paper.
I'm not a Tomlin guy.
You're not a Tomlin guy.
I think he's just
garbage. But you're going for it. Like, what are you doing?
Like Jeff said, he's a CEO. He says all those really wonderful.
He does say the right
thing. Like a speech in the locker room type of thing that gets everybody going.
He won with somebody else's players, and basically, is.
But he's been winning with him.
But okay,
he's not losing. He hasn't won.
10-6.
He doesn't have a losing record.
But let me add to what Merle is saying
but
here.
But he never wins a championship.
You don't always have to be Andy Reid. You just got to be the smartest guy in the room that you're in. In Mike Tomlin's case, if giving everybody in the locker room black Air Force Ones, and if you're in the black community, you know what that means. You know what the black Air Force Ones mean. If he gives everybody in the locker room black Air Force Ones, that hypes him up. If Dennis Allen comes in the locker room, okay, so that's a job for another show. We'll talk about that after the show. But if Dennis Allen gives his team black Air Force Ones, they're like, these shits are just black Air Force Ones. But when Peyton came in and Peyton had the rep for I rock Jordans every day, and he laces his team with Jordans after a team win, they all get hyped. Mike, like you said, Tomlin is not great at anything, but he's good at enough stuff that keeps them at a level that Pittsburgh is not one of the type of franchises that damn flounders or gets frantic when somebody goes 9-7 or 9-8. They're all
and
right.
They can't fire the black coach either because
they can't fire the one black guy.
He's been there 20 years though, right?
They can't fire him until he has a losing record.
He has to be really terrible because he goes like
Berg. That's the point, Berg. He doesn't have a losing record. He's been there 20 years. He's never had a losing record.
Yeah, he's gonna have to really lose, and it would have to be really bad because they can't.
2-12.
Have to learn.
They peg them to a corner.
These franchises are what they are. Now, I like Dan Campbell. I like Dan Campbell when he was in down Miami for the few minutes that he was in Miami. But if the Lions, think about this, if the Lions could reverse time and go back to that 10-6 season they had with Jim Caldwell when they ran his ass out the door, they would have never even talked about getting rid of him because he had them on ascension. He had them on the ascension to being relevant. They
why couldn't he do it in Indy?
Over.
Why couldn't he do it in Indy then?
Again, it's the right situation, the right guys, the right. Sometimes you just gotta have that guy as a like I was gonna say earlier when you were talking about is it the coach's fault? I think of it in parental terms. If your kid isn't doing his homework, is it the teacher's fault that he didn't do his homework? Or ultimately, is it your fault that you didn't check his book bag?
It's the school board's fault for giving him his homework.
It's the school board's fault.
It's the school board's fault for giving him homework.
But it's your fault. When you are the CEO, everything falls to you. When somebody in these big major companies hustles or drops goddamn contaminated waste in some lake in Nebraska or somewhere or something, it ain't the dudes on the truck that you hear about on the news. It's the CEO of the company that's in front of Congress and shit. So, everything is the head coach's problem.
So what I like Lauren's question. So let's figure this out because this is a good question. So we have 20 minutes left. We still have one topic, two topics we need to get to, so we're okay. Removing the coaches, which team has the better offensive weapons? I mean, I think it's the Saints. I don't even think it's close, to be honest.
So then my question is, what's the difference between
really, what does Saints have? I'm confused.
And I mean, they got Olave, they got an aging Michael Thomas who seems to be okay and better than he has been. They got Kamara, they got
Pickens,
Jimmy Graham,
Deontay Johnson. They're better.
But Deontay, is he ever going to be healthy again? Because like
Olave gonna start getting arrested. I mean, I don't know.
I know.
Other than the Steelers defense, what's the difference? What's the difference between their offenses other than the Steelers defense?
Right.
Take the coaches out of it.
I don't see any difference in the rosters.
No,
there's no difference. They're the same team.
Do a simple compare and contrast here. You're comparing Pickett versus Carr, which is better. It's a push. They both suck.
Okay.
You're comparing Olave versus George Pickens. They're both your ones. They both have a lot of talent. They both have a lot of potential. Neither of them have done anything. You have Deontay Johnson. You have Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas was great in 2019. It is 4 years later. Michael Thomas is Julio Jones wearing a fleur-de-lis on his helmet rather than a wing. They're the same exact player. It's a push. Tight ends. Jimmy Graham. Nobody knows this. Jimmy Graham died in 2013. How he's still playing, I don't know. Freiermuth can't stay healthy. So that's a push. Defense,
you got Taysom Hill too.
Okay, Taysom Hill died with Jimmy Graham in 20. Or at least
he's like the way they're using him the last couple of weeks, bro, has been nuts.
Stop it. Jimmy Graham is going to give you 30 points in week 8. Then he's going to give you 4 points in weeks 9 through 15.
For the rest of the season.
I'm not doing it. So defense. Both of them have stout defenses. Just across the board, Saints and Steelers are both defensive strong. That's their strength. I can't speak to either of their special teams. I don't know shit about either. Which brings you back to run. Thank you. Run game. You have Kamara versus Najee. Yeah. I'm taking
Kamara play behind a better line
all day long.
No, probably not.
Hang on. So if we're talking about run game. Both of them suck.
They both suck.
Both of them suck. If we're talking
the running
fantasy,
back is better.
If we're talking PPR and fantasy, Kamara all day. Which brings it down to coaching. We've already talked.
That's what I'm saying. They're pretty much equal. But then Mike Tomlin's team is doing a help. So what's maybe it is Mike Tomlin. Do you see what I'm saying? Like there's a.
Well, I think that's an organizational thing. I think that's an organizational thing because
neither of them are good coaches.
Yeah, I don't.
One of them has a better record.
Well,
neither of them have done. Neither of them have done dick for 15 years.
This might be a terrible comparison because would you take Tomlin or Dennis Allen over Belichick? And the Patriots suck. So I'm just saying you can't always put it at the feet of the coach. Sometimes
I don't know.
Belichick in his case is the general manager. So, but you got to I got to work with the groceries you gave. I can only cook with the groceries you gave.
Stop. So here's the problem. This is what happens in fantasy football a lot, is a lot of people get hung up on names. There are still people today making trades for Odell Beckham and DeAndre Hopkins. Why? They're a name.
Why?
Mike Tomlin is the same thing. Mike Tomlin won a championship in 2010.
With somebody else's player.
2011 with Ben Roethlisberger and Hines Ward was not his team. Mike Tomlin is nothing but a name. Period.
He's a good steward. I like to think of Mike Tomlin as a good steward. He's a good steward of the estate.
He's not a coach.
He doesn't let
the Rooney estate.
Yeah, he doesn't let the weeds grow up. Everything looks nice here, but they're not gonna win it. They just look. It's a nice looking neighborhood. Yeah, he's a good steward.
Master's boys.
Mike Tomlin is that dude in the front, that little jockey dude holding the lantern in the front of those neighborhoods. That's Mike Tomlin. He's in denial. I love Mike Tomlin. I love his interviews. I love the way he handles his play. I love the players always.
This show would never be aired on Merle's channel. Done. This episode would never air.
Players say a bad word about Mike.
He would let the weeds grow.
But I'm just saying,
the dude with
Mike
the lantern.
Tomlin. He's the dude with the lantern. He is. Let's just call him what it is. He is.
Jesus.
You lost me a long time ago.
Oh gosh! All right, so look,
I'm just saying.
You lost me back in the Air Force One.
No, we got a couple
too.
more. We got a couple more things to cover. So let's let the commissioner cover for a second. Let's let the commissioner cover for a second before we go into his success. Ian, I want now. Look, I want you're allowed 15 seconds to talk as much shit to Ferg as you want to for 15 seconds, and then we need to hear about your experience.
But you can't respond, Jeff. You've responded.
You can't respond, Jeff. But then we want to hear about your experience. But we need to talk to Merrill about this, and Lauren, let them have a conversation about this DFS and this parlay stuff that had a success this week. So, Ian, you got 15 seconds. Go.
I will tell you, Jeff. Much respect. Dolphins are a good team. Dolphins last week lost to a better team. Does that mean this week, if they played again, would the Dolphins win? Maybe. My experience at the game was that if you were a Dolphins fan, don't wear a jersey. Don't wear anything Dolphin related because Philly fans are notoriously mean, and it's true. I've been there. I was there. It's true. But there wasn't
Philly games where I'm wearing Met stuff, and it was not.
No,
smart.
that's a bad idea. That's a bad call. But everybody that I saw that I was around there were no batteries, no 9 volts, no
batteries.
Batteries,
okay,
nothing being thrown. Santa was safe. Everything was cool.
That's cool.
I think people were really in a jovial mood because the Eagles were playing and the Phillies were still alive across the street playing Game 6 the next day. Yeah. Didn't work out. Hey, I'm wearing my brownies now. I'm not wearing the Phillies.
It definitely. Yeah.
Joe, do you remember really quick? Do you remember last year when Dak won the whatever at the Super Bowl, the Man of the Year award? Because Philly was.
You're right, RJ.
RJ, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Booed him when he was coming out just to get award on service and
that was at the Super Bowl where it was that the crowd there was probably 75%. Philadelphia fans travel well.
Dak, thank you for doing all these amazing things for humankind. And Phillies fans are like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, that's why it's so hard to play in Citizens Bank. That's why it's so hard to play at Lincoln Financial.
Yeah.
It's because they
did laugh though.
I say lean into that shit.
You know what you
pass it down to generations.
What RJ calls assholes, and I know why, and I understand why he says that. I'm going to flip that. I'm going to flip it. That it's yes to you, we're assholes, but what we really are is passionate. We are passionate.
For sure, it's
passionate supporters of our team. And as Jeff closes this show every week, fuck y'all team.
Okay, so hold on a second. I gotta say this because this is something that I talked to a lot of people about. Being a passionate fan and being an asshole fan are different. Just like being cocky and being confident are different.
100%.
Right?
Well,
so if you're passionate, you can be passionate and not an asshole. Because look, in my younger days, I have been known to be a passionate, assholey fan of the team that I'm wearing right now, and I wore that label with pride, right?
Justin Goss.
Right. And now I'm a passionate fan, but I'm not an asshole anymore, right? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? So there's difference.
I'm an asshole. It's cool. There's no difference.
We all know.
You know what? Without getting too way into some other shit, without getting too far down the rabbit hole of some other shit, it's all about.
My 15 seconds are up. Parlay.
Yeah, you're too. Okay, so let Merrill and so Lauren, if you want to talk some DFS, y'all, Merrill want to talk some DFS.
I want to hear Merrill talk.
We're gonna talk shit about Philly, Miami, and
Merrill, you have.
Let Ferg get his little rocks.
We're gonna talk shit about Philly, Miami, and I don't get to say shit.
Oh, that's your punishment. I forgot.
No, you lost. That's what I'm saying. You didn't get to say that.
You can't.
That was shit. For the first half hour of the show, we just finally got you off your soapbox.
But Ferg, this is what we're gonna do next week. Next week we're gonna talk about officiating because we don't have time for that shit. It's 8:18. Wow. We do not have time for that shit. So next week we can talk about officiating in real football. So for now, we're gonna talk to the commish about his parlay success that he had this week. before we go into a little bit of something else about fantasy.
I really want to get into it as well.
Yeah. So for those of y'all who watched before, we talked a little bit about daily fantasy, which is there's two main things out there: DraftKings and FanDuel, and you basically have a salary cap, and you basically pick players. You can pick. Sometimes they have it where it's a whole tournament, so it's a big slate of players, and you can pick from the morning and afternoon games. And you're trying to get a optimum score. Usually you have to smash and score somewhere in the 200s.
Yeah.
I think it's is it 11-man not a lineup, no kicker? It might be 11 or 9.
It's quarterback, 2 running
backs,
2
running backs, 3 wide receivers, a flex, tight end.
And something that I've learned this week is that you can't play anybody in the Thursday night games.
You can.
You can. So you can do a tournament that is all the games, and you got to pick players with a salary, or you can do a showdown, which is just one game, and you have to do the same thing with the salary cap, but the players are worth more.
Okay.
And in the showdown, you have to decide: is your strategy going to you get 1.5 more points for whoever has you pick somebody in your captain slot, and they get 1.5. So that's basically some people try to hit the person who's going to have the biggest game and get all those points, or you could get a player who's only worth a couple $100, put him in your captain slot, and then you can have more players in your flex. It's a whole strategy to it, and there's these big tournaments where you can win big money, but only 10 to 15% people cash out, or these 50-50 cash games where you can kind of be chalky,
but keep your bankroll,
and 50% of the people who enter win. So
chalky means like you don't have to like Ian and I could have the same exact damn lineup, and if 50% of the top 50% win, then it doesn't. That's what chalky.
Yeah, the tournaments you have to be tricky. The tournaments you have to figure out not to play a player that a lot of people play, and that player has to do really well. So when you have our chain from Miami a few weeks ago that had that crazy game, you probably got them for $3,000-$4,000 less than one of the main running backs. So that's what me and Lauren have been doing. We've been playing those games. What I had started doing is playing this thing on it's called Underdog Fantasy, and it's basically like a bunch of prop bets. So basically, you can.
What is a prop bet?
A prop bet is a bet that's not based on the winning or losing of the game. It's like something, a stat. Or something, or some tendency, or something like that.
Like an over/under of yards, over/under of touchdowns.
Yeah, that's how Underdog works. You can do it a couple ways. You can say, I believe that DeAndre Hopkins is going to have more fantasy points than Ramondre Stevenson. So you can do it that way and kind of like see if and the way these work. So you can either do it player to player, or all the players have these different things. I won a parlay where KJ Osborne.
What is a parlay?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so this is different. So this is where you have to pick 3, 4, or 5 things. All of those things have to happen for you to win. Okay. So you can do it. So you make the most money if you go all the way to 5.
But you have to get all 3.
But you have to get all. You got to get all 3 right, or you got to get all 5 right. If you miss one,
you're out.
Then the whole thing goes to shit.
What was that receiver from Minnesota that you put in that parlay?
So my parlay, I had 2 parlays that won. One won 500, the other one won 200. And the one that was awesome. It was a pretty good week. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use that money to have cash to go play DraftKings. So basically,
how much did you have to put in to get the 500?
$10.
Jesus.
Yeah, I love it. But I picked some wild stuff. So
yeah, he picked some wild stuff.
KJ Osborne had to have hold this idea. Where's it at?
Yeah, read me the $500.
So yeah, KJ Osborne had to have 41 yards. 41. And he only had 40 yards with like a minute left. Brandon Powell had to get 29.5.
That's the one. Brandon Powell.
I'm telling you, that's why. That's because the more risky you get, the more money you get. Kirk Cousins had to have 245 passing.
Oh, that's easy.
He crushed that.
Jawan Jennings had to have 28 yards receiving.
Easy.
But you can pick under or over that. You can say he's going to get less than that. You can pick.
The number was 27.5 for Jawan. Kirk Cousins was 244. I was like, that's easy. Brandon Powell, that was going to have to be lucky. KJ Osborne, I thought 40 to be easy. Jawan Jennings, I knew he was going to get playing because Debo wasn't playing. The thing that I didn't know, this is the big thing. Jordan Addison had to have 0.5 touchdowns. So that just means he had to score a touchdown.
Rushing or receiving?
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Either way, okay.
So all 5 of those things hit, and then I played another one the same night, and this one was for the 200 one, where I said Brandon Ayuk would not get a touchdown.
Okay.
Jordan Addison would have more than 9 fantasy points.
Oh, he definitely did that.
KJ Osborne would have more than 7. Kirk Cousins would have more than 17. And Juwan Jennings would have more than 30 receiving yards.
And how much? And what was your buy-in for that second one?
5. And I got 200.
So you bet $15 and won $700 by doing prop bets, which is each of those individuals. But it was the parlay because you won all 5 things,
right?
And you hit on all 5. You're winning more money. Now, if it was only a 3-line parlay, it may have been $200 or $250. But because there's more parlays, there's more hits. It's harder, so you're going to win more money.
More, right?
And you had a really good week to buy us all gifts for Christmas.
It's fun. I mean, but last week I spent like $70 and lost all of it. You know what I mean? So like, but it's fun because like with doing it this way, you don't have to like these tournaments that me and that we play. Me and Lauren get in like the top prize is like $1 million or $100,000. They're like really crazy prizes. But if I win $100 in a week, I'm happy.
Yeah, you got to be like.
But with this parlay style, you can pick basically like you can go through every team and find your 5 things that you think are going to happen. So like I think it's easy money. And what I'm learning is big game. Home team pick some of their kind of randos, and then their core people to score a touchdown. So I'm a
Dallas Goedert type thing.
And RJ, I'm not sure. Merrill, Lauren, do y'all know this information?
I'm not
18 player.
Oh, hit that now. See, you can do stuff like that, like in Vegas. I mean, like you can do parlays like for games and props and stuff anywhere. I don't think you can do it on Underdog.
Jesus.
Wow, so this guy hit 18 separate pops on one parlay. Hit all 18, probably won.
All right, I want to see someone do 32.
That's because it's hard, man. It's hard for all those things to happen, man.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that has to be like super.
I had one last night that fell apart for NBA.
Are you falling apart with the NBA right now? Because I know your boys are playing.
I feel like these parlays are fixed. I feel like I want to go conspiracy. I really want to go conspiracy too, because I'm like, these bets are out like on Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I do my parlays and it'll say Kirk Cousins has to get more than 279 or some crazy number. And then at the end, when I place the bets, it's always like Kirk Cousins had 278.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert needed 75 yards. He had 74 yards. Like, how the fuck?
Somebody knows
this shit. Somebody knows.
5 minutes before Underdog closed their opening stuff, it said Bijan Robinson 0.5 yards higher or lower. I was like, well, that's weird.
Who's going to take lower?
Who's going to take lower than 0.5? And the dude didn't play.
He had migraine.
Now migraine.
But somebody knew something. Somebody Underdog knew that. Somebody Underdog knew that.
But didn't Underdog return those bets, or was that
FanDuel?
Yeah, they had to.
Yeah. But I mean, I get migraines. Like I get it.
All right, so let's. That was great, Merrill. I'm super happy for you, man. Like,
that was fun, man. I'm gonna do it again.
And keep that shit up. And what I want to
make sure you know that he's Jewish and he needs 8 presents.
Well, what I want everybody here to think about
Socks,
for next week.
Underwear, notebooks.
Well, what I want everybody here to think about for next week, and everybody that's listening or watching out there, is going into week 9 next week. Because we don't have time to talk about it this week, but we wanted to. So going into week 9 for next week in fantasy, what is your record? And if you are losing, how are you moving forward? Like if you know there's no chance.
In all 123 leagues.
No,
that's going to take the whole show.
We just need an overall strategy, Berg, not a league by league strategy. So I want everybody to be thinking about that for next week. So just a little teaser about what's going on next week. So let's talk about the Thursday night game. And one thing I want to talk about the Thursday night game is something we always talk about is Thursday night players. Put them in your lineup, not your flex. But I also want to talk about how Monday night players, if they're injured or threat of being injured or not playing, put them in your flex as well. as well as Sunday night players, because it gives you more flexibility, if you will, to move players around. I learned the hard way. Well, not the hard way. It ended up being fine. But I had CMC last week, right, and didn't put him in my flex in one of the leagues. And so it was like, but glad he played. Or I would have had to play Elijah Mitchell, which I don't know, probably wouldn't have been too bad. All right, so anyway, so this Thursday night, we got the Bills and the Bucks. So that the Bills that have lost, 2 in a row and 3 of 4.
No, they didn't. They beat the Giants the week before.
Oh, okay. So then, so I'm saying 3 or 4. They lost before the Giants,
yes,
right?
Win, yeah.
And then
looked good for several.
And then we got the Bucks, right? Then we got the Bucks with the Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans led Bucks.
I like him.
Yeah, no, look, interesting fact. Interesting fact. And I wish we could talk about this in not such a specific manner, but who leads the NFL in the running back position, with targets caught, right? So like percentage of targets caught. Yes. He catches 98% of his targets thrown to him.
But how many targets?
Dude, he had like 11 last week. Like this dude gets thrown the ball, but it's right at the line of scrimmage because it's fucking Baker Mayfield.
He's not getting anything out of it.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Look, I like watching Baker.
He's getting receptions. Like what's the last 2 games? Kamara has 12 catches for 42 yards and like 13 catches for 31 yards. It doesn't matter, bro. In fantasy football,
if you're playing PPR, who cares about the yards? Just catch
just catch the football. All right, so the over/under is 43.5, which is not good fantasy wise. And it is an 8.5 point favorite for the Bills
in Buffalo. Yeah,
in Buffalo for the 8.5 point favorite for the Bills. So
yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, so I mean, in fantasy, do you play Josh Allen? Yes. Do you play Diggs? Yes. Do you play Dalton? Do you play Kincaid? Absolutely. I think at this point you have to because Dawson Knox isn't playing.
Do you play the Bills defense? The Bills defense is not the same without Tre'Davious and Matt.
No, probably not because
I
don't run from him, but I'm not excited.
But like if I had him and I wanted to keep him, I'd play him.
Are we getting Von Miller sighting this week?
Yeah, probably. But you're going against.
I mean, Baker's good for a pick.
Yeah, Baker's good for a pick.
Baker's
hurt.
Yeah,
but he's still going to play.
Oh, it's trash.
He's not going to play.
Oh, Baker's not playing.
Oh, wow.
Well, okay, so
play Buffalo. Okay. Play Buffalo defense. Never mind. Yeah, play him. Oh my God.
If Buffalo, if Baker doesn't play, you play Buffalo defense 100%.
Absolutely.
And Kyle Trask goes off for 350.
It doesn't matter, bro. Against a rookie quarterback, you always play the defense. You give me that defense against a rookie quarterback that doesn't know how to play the position and never has before.
That happened to me last week when I played the Raiders defense against Chicago. That didn't work out.
Oh, yeah. Well,
No.
Well, the Raiders suck.
But that
should be your first sign.
All right, so what does everybody say here? I mean,
of course he did a good job.
Obviously, you got the on the Bills side, right? So you have the Dalton Kincaid, you have the Josh Allen, you have the Diggs. Do you play Gabe Davis? Like as a flex option? Do you have Davis there
this week? So
I hate that.
I hate that to play Gabe Davis. Without looking at any stats, I don't have anything pulled up. You already know that every 3 to 4 games, Gabe Davis is going to go the fuck off.
He's going to go 37-7.
And he was shit last week.
He's going to go the fuck off. He's shitty. So I don't know if this is his
last 2 weeks in a row. Yeah.
So I say one more week before he goes off.
He's a touchdown dependent flex.
Oh,
very touchdown dependent.
So now then on the other side of the ball with the Bucks, if Baker plays, yeah, sure, play him. Why not? If you have to, especially in a 2 QB league, you definitely need to play him.
League, yeah,
super flex, you got to play him. Rashad White, I mean, if it's a PPR or half PPR, you got to play him. 7 points.
But speaking just strictly fantasy, you just play your best players this week because there are no buys.
Because there are no buys.
So it's not complicated this week.
Right.
Play best player, the guy with the best matchup, the dude is projected to get the most points, and just ride with him. Unless you are like 1-7. 2-6, whatever. You're just trying to
trade your players. We'll talk about that next week.
Shit, but
we'll talk about that next week. But
that's next week's this week.
You're definitely playing Godwin and Evans as well. Evans is having
Godwin has a neck injury. Godwin's
Yeah,
hurt.
I mean, if Godwin plays, you play Godwin. Evans is having a fantastic season, so you got to play. You got to play Mike.
Godwin got 12 targets last week, so that's enough for me.
Yeah. So okay. So I mean, everybody here thinks the Bills are going to win, right? Like this is not.
I don't. I didn't say that.
All right, Ferg. All right. So even if Baker doesn't play, you're going Bucks.
Oh, if Baker's not playing, then yeah, we'll go Bills. If Baker's playing, I'm going to take Bucks on the road.
Okay. I don't hate that. I'm
not a Bills believer this year. I just don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know if we got into it enough. I'm just not a Bills believer.
I don't
care who wins. I don't care who wins. I just want Diggs to score 4 touchdowns. That's all I
care. And I understand that.
All I care.
Josh Allen throws for 4, I'll be good with that as well.
Yeah.
I don't care about anything else.
All right. So all right, it's about 4 minutes past the time that we normally go. So again, just a reminder. As a Thursday night reminder, put your Thursday night players in your starting lineup, take them out of your flex. Your Sunday night and Monday night players, if they're injured, put them in your and they're questionable, put them in your flex position. So you have that availability for your other players, and make sure you grab the backups if they're available. Lauren, what else you got?
I'm good.
All right, Ian, what else you got?
I wanted to talk some trades, but we'll get into that next week.
We can talk about that next week. We'll talk more fantasy next week.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
we'll talk more fantasy next week.
This is good. No, this is good. It's a good show.
All right,
it's a good show.
Commish, what you got?
Not much, man. Who the Giants playing this week?
I don't know, bro. That's on you.
I don't know until Sunday.
Yes, the Jets.
You know what? And I was listening to my favorite fantasy podcast, and they were talking about defense stream. They were talking about defenses as a stream, and they said the Giants play the Jets play the Giants. Let's move on. Right?
Yeah,
so, it's one of those things.
Man, that's interesting. Yeah. We'll probably lose. Yeah.
Well, I mean, where are you playing?
At home. It's a home game.
It's a home game no matter what.
It's a home game.
Oh yeah.
We're not good. We're tanking for Marvin.
Well, I guess
for the you're taking for Marvin, not for.
Gotta be for Marvin.
We can't afford it.
So we can talk. We can talk about that a little bit next week. That's a great topic to talk about next week. Let's talk about some college players next week because it's almost the end of the college season. Well, about a month and a half away. So we can talk about that later. Ferg, what say you, bro?
I'm gonna call an audible and throw something out here for anybody that's watching. How about this? Anybody that subscribes to the Facebook page or signs up for the YouTube, we're going to enter you in a chance to win $25 as a gift card next week.
From where? Just the Visa gift card, or are you
just
going to go
Visa gift card? Straight $25, straight cash, homie. We ain't first take or undisputed or not, but we can scrounge up $25. Anybody that subscribe, anybody if you're already subscribed, we appreciate you. We will put you in the drawing. Any new subscribers, we're going to add you. We will start off the show next week with announcing our winner, and I think we're going to give away something.
I subscribe. Can I be in the drawing?
No, you are an employee.
You are ineligible.
You didn't read the employee handbook before you signed up.
You are ineligible for winning.
I would love to see that.
Like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you guys that do watch. Hopefully, maybe if we get lucky, we'll have somebody special come on and speak to us next week.
I'll talk to y'all about that off air. I'll talk to y'all about that off air once we get done here.
But definitely go to the page. We appreciate you. Like, subscribe. We're going to give away some shit for the rest of the year. How about that?
For sure. And what's the handle on Instagram there, Ferg?
And have a wonderful
on Instagram. It still says the New Football Show with no name, but under the YouTube and Facebook pages are the Football Show with no name. Like, subscribe. Like I said, we're gonna give away some shit. I think
ring that bell.
To come up with some
Halloween,
shit.
everyone, be safe.
Yep. And happy Halloween, everybody. Make good choices from the very daddest saying ever. Make good choices. I'll be at a night at
Hogwarts at a vineyard.
So for Big Jeff, Ferg up in the top left hand corner, Ian and Champ up in the top right hand corner, Lauren Hudat on the bottom, and as always, we appreciate the commish for joining us to complete the square here, and for the Fantasy Football Show with no name next Wednesday 7:30. Be here. We got some interesting shit to talk about. Peace out.